Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi man walatum amma ba'd. Actually, tonight I'm going to talk about three very specific situations. The first one is a dua. It's personally one of my favorite du'as from the Holy Quran, and you can find this in multiple locations. The first location is chapter number 27, surah number 27. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes a set of human beings that He calls Ibadur Rahman. Ibadur Rahman, and they have many characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains in the surah, and He goes through their characteristics. They're a very special group of Muslims, and inshallah they enter the highest degrees of Jannah. And one of those characteristics is that they make a special dua, and this dua is رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. We must all memorize this dua. So this dua, at a very basic explanation, simply means, Ya Allah, give us from amongst our families and our children. Qurrat a'yun in Arabic simply means the coolness of the eye. The coolness of the eye, and make us an imam of the muttaqeen. Now, to understand this coolness of the eye, we have to have some understanding of the Arabic language and how the Arabs used to speak. So when they said coolness of the eye, it's usually meant something good with respect to the mother. So the opposite of that is the warmness of the eye, and both of them are Arabic expressions that the Arabs used to use. So to give you an example, if you think of two mothers at the airport, one mother is receiving her son or her daughter after 4 years of absence or 4 years living in another country, and another mother, the same airport, is giving her salams to her son or her daughter who's leaving, maybe getting married and moving to another country for 4 years or for 5 years. Both of them would be crying. But one would be crying because of the coolness of her eye, and one would be crying because of the warmness of her eye. So depending on the heart feels, depending on how the eye situation is. This is the Arabic expression. In fact, there's a story of an Arab in Jahiliyyah time who was sitting on, he was actually lying down on a hill. He's a poet, and he is coming to get revenge for his tribe. So he has his knife or his sword, and he's coming to assassinate the leader of the other tribe. And in his poetry he says, until I can stab the other leader with my sword or my poet, my whole tribe will feel the warmness of the eye, because they were offended by this other tribe. So he was a poet and an assassin, and he gives this verse. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is telling us that it's a dua where we make dua for our spouses and our children, that they are the coolness of the eye for us. وَجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. The rest of the verse says, and make us an imam for those that have taqwa. Well, the question is, who is it that those that have taqwa with respect to the dua of the coolness of the eye? And what it has to do with is your progeny after your children. So after your children, inshallah, get married, they have kids, their children, inshallah, have kids, and so forth. And inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make them all Muslims. You want to be the imam of this whole generation of progeny that comes because of you on the Day of Judgment, because you had a role to play in them all turning out to be Muslims, right? And there's another verse in Quran, in Surah Al-Qasas, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes another situation very quickly, where Musa alayhi salam is placed in the river, and as he's placed in the river, he is picked up by a woman. Now this woman that rescues him from the Nile is actually the wife of Fir'aun. The wife of Fir'aun, and she can't have children. Now this wife of Fir'aun was a Muslimah, and she couldn't reveal her iman. She couldn't reveal her iman. So she doesn't live in a domestically violent relationship that we know of, but she's certainly tormented emotionally because she is a Muslimah and she's living with, the kafir of kuffar, which is Fir'aun. And when she picks up the child, she hides the child from the police, from the military, so that they don't get him. And when she wants to show him to Fir'aun, she says, قُرَّةُ عَيْنٍ لِي وَلَكَ. She says, again the same expression, coolness of the eye for me and for you. So she puts all her interest in this child to not think about Fir'aun and the disasters he's causing. And if you look at the expression, it's beautiful, because she doesn't say قُرَّةُ عَيْنٍ لَنَا. She doesn't say for me and for you. She says for me and maybe for you as well. And maybe for you as well, right? And then a few verses later, we also read in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, after his sister follows him and so forth, he says to the mother of Musa alayhi salam, the mother of Musa, to prove to you that we are going to return him to you, and that our promise is a true promise. To prove to the mother of Musa alayhi salam the reconnection back to her son. After she lost him and she was afraid for him and she was worried for him and so forth. But because she followed what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had prescribed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reconnects them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear that this is the coolness of the eye for the mother of Musa alayhi salam. So that's one situation that I wanted to talk about. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all our children and our progeny the coolness of our eyes. The second situation that I wanted to talk about is an interesting one, and I want you to picture this for a second. You're sitting in your house with some very important guests. You know, maybe Brother Nasser is visiting, Brother Rani is visiting, and there's some food, and the food is very delicious, and your wife comes out and she kicks the food and continues to walk. Right? She kicks the food in front of all the guests and she continues to walk. Question for the brothers, what would your reaction be? Okay? And this situation actually happened to the Prophet ﷺ. This happened within the Prophet's household when he was sitting with the Sahaba, and he was at the house of Aisha radiallahu anha at the time, and the most senior Sahaba are there, and his other wife Hafsa prepares a cake, and she takes the cake and she puts it outside the house where they're sitting on the floor. Aisha radiallahu anha sees the cake. She knows she didn't cook it. She knows it's from one of the others. And as she's walking, she casually, she sees the cake, she kicks the cake, and she continues to walk. She doesn't stop or apologize. She kicks it and she continues to walk. So the Prophet ﷺ, again, this is mainly for the brothers, what does he do and what's his reaction? To tie it back to the dua of may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the coolness of our eye from amongst our wives and amongst our progeny. He goes to the pieces of the cake, and he goes to the plate, and he picks up the pieces. And he says to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, he says to them, غَارَتْ أُمُّكُمْ غَارَتْ أُمُّكُمْ. Your mother has jealousy in her heart. In other words, don't mind her, excuse her, forgive her. She has jealousy on her heart. And why does he say ummukum? Because all the wives of the Prophet ﷺ are our mothers. They are our mothers. That's why he says gharat ummukum about Aisha radiallahu anha. He doesn't get up and he says, how could you do this? You offended me in front of my guests. Don't you know who was outside? It's haram to kick the food. You broke the plate. Look at it, right? This would be what we would normally do, right? And this is the reaction of the Prophet ﷺ. I then want to explain another situation of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is, wallahi, it shows you the genius of Muhammad ﷺ, the genius, his genius. And this is something that teaches us a lesson in da'wah fi sabilillah, where the Prophet ﷺ, and pay very close attention to this situation, he uses intelligence and logic, and then he turns it to an emotional discussion. Okay? Pay attention to this situation, because this situation, when you listen to it, the first reaction you're going to have is, astaghfirullah, how could this happen? Astaghfirullah, right? The situation is, a man, can you imagine, a man from the Sahaba goes to the Prophet ﷺ and he asks a question. He asks him a question. If this situation had happened with our Imam, with Sheikh Juban, let's say, we would have been saying, how could this person do this? We would have been talking about it on Facebook forever, and emails flying around to the board. How dare you let this person ask the Sheikh this question? This person went to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who was sent from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a guide to all mankind until the Day of Judgment. And he says, Ya Rasulullah, I would like for permission to commit zina. I want permission to commit zina. Waliyadu billah. The Prophet ﷺ, now you put yourself in that situation, one of us, again, brother or sister, we would have slapped the person, beat them up, pulled out the Quran, read this verse, look at this hadith, right? The Prophet ﷺ reacts in an amazing way. In an amazing way. This is now the non-religious aspect of his response, the logical aspect of his response, right? He says to him, أَتَرْضَاهُ لِأُمِّكَ, would you accept this for your mother? And the man says, no, I would never accept this for your mother, for my mother. And he says, أَتَرْضَاهُ لِأُخْتِكَ, would you accept this for your sister? And the man says, no, I would never accept this for my sister. He says, أَتَرْضَاهُ لِبْنَتِكَ, would you accept this for your daughter? And he says, I would never accept this for my daughter. And he says, أَتَرْضَاهُ لِخَالَتِكَ, would you accept this for your maternal aunt? And he said, I would never accept this. He said, would you accept this? أَتَرْضَاهُ لِعَمَّتِكَ, would you accept this for your maternal aunt? This Prophet doesn't stop. He doesn't stop. And the man says, no, 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 no. So the Prophet ﷺ, he says, how can you accept this for the daughters of others? This is where the rational intelligence comes in. And then he places, so after the man now realizes how bad what he's asking for, the Prophet ﷺ puts his hand on his heart and he makes dua for him, that this never stays in his heart. Now the emotional connection comes in. So there's first a discussion that's a reasonable discussion. It's an intelligent discussion, a logical discussion, where the man says, I would never accept any of this for anyone in my family. So we already established that this is wrong. And this is a form of da'wah, my brothers and sisters. This is the Prophet ﷺ teaching us how to make da'wah. The Prophet ﷺ was the best of teachers. When he's sitting with the Sahaba, another example to them. He says to them, he draws in the sand several lines. Draws several lines. And he says, all these lines are reading the same way, but only one of them is the correct one. So it's a visual demonstration of a sirat, of the way in which people should go. This was the brilliance of Muhammad ﷺ. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah throughout this month have us learn more about his sunnah and his seerah and his ways in teaching. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah accept our siyam and have us join him in Jannah inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.